I'm pleased to be joined by Pete Nakos, who is the college sports reporter for On3. Pete, how you doing?
I'm good, RJ. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Obviously, you were at the front of a very big news bomb over the weekend that took a little bit of time to suss out. Now that we know that Nico Iamaleava is planning to enter the portal, opening on April 16th, what are the next steps for a player who is being labeled as a mercenary, but also still has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in college football?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the next steps for him are trying to figure out where he's going to land, and I
Mm.
don't think that is going to be as easy as some may have assumed, just because of I think the price point that him and his camp are looking for, but also, um, I think how things ended at Tennessee may have soured some schools that may have been in the picture.
I understand that cannot transfer in the SEC immediately due to an
Right.
SEC rule without a waiver. Do you think Tennessee might be inclined to extend that waiver if he did get some interest from the SEC?
Uh, I don't know. That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. I would say no, without any knowledge though. But I think we'd have to see. I think Tennessee is just Josh Heupel has made the decision to move on, and that's just kind of where it is at right now. So I wouldn't know what they'd say if Nico went back and asked for a waiver.
One of the topics going into this spring portal is just it's kind of like the last gold rush before we get the House
Sure.
versus NCAA settlement. I wonder, do you think that this was a play for Nico to try to get a better deal, or perhaps he did want out? Is there any try to make sense of this for me? Because as I understand it, you're getting paid $2 million.
Yeah.
You were a top 10 quarterback in a 16 team league. What did you expect? Did you think that this was going to be what you're worth to Tennessee or what you're worth to college football?
Sure. Yeah. I think that from everything I was told before I reported that story, and I put it in that initial story that Nico was happy at Tennessee. Him
Mm.
and Josh Heupel had a good relationship. I think his camp wanted him to get more money, and I think that played a role in him ultimately leaving Tennessee and where that fell apart. ESPN reported last week that he wanted like about $4 million from Tennessee. He was making something between like 2.2, 2.5. So that's kind of where that happened. And I think at the end of the day, I know, right, we reported last week about the contract negotiations. I think where things broke down is the lack of communication at the end on that Friday when he missed practice in the decision to make those decisions. I don't think it actually came down to money at the end.
Do you think that the way that this holdout has gone and the way that it's being characterized, much like the NFL, will
Sure.
prevent future holdouts, guys believing that perhaps they could do this at their programs?
Yeah, a lot of people try to like dub what happened with Nico as a holdout. I'd say the biggest difference in the NFL is that I think NFL players have a lot more leverage than college football players. Um, Nico now has to go find a school where he might make less money than he's making in Tennessee. We don't know that for sure yet. Um, and probably not in the SEC, just with the way the interconference rules set up. So um, he lost a lot of leverage with the decision to transfer. In the NFL, you kind of look at it, right? Like if a guy holds up for summer camp or something, I'd say odds are the NFL organization comes back at the end of August and says we can't really go throughout the season with you. So that's kind of my read on it.
Well, that was also something like my read on it. No shade to George or Jake, but there's
Yeah,
a reason as to why Nico was QB1, and
sure.
the program would be prepared, I think, to go with either one of those guys. You probably want to go get someone else if you can, if for no other reason to
Yeah,
fill out your quarterback room.
yeah. I really think Tennessee is an interesting question that I think they're trying to answer uh, inside the program before the portal opens. Do we set up the program for success in 26 and 27 and roll with Jake and George, which might be the best long term play? Um, but you obviously still have to bring in some guy to come in and whether compete for the starting job or add depth to the room. It's going to have to be one or the other. Or do you kind of say, hey, the money we were going to pay Nico this year, let's go pay it on another top quarterback and try to really shake some things up.
There are some places that Nico could obviously land. Watch your segment on Feinbaum. You mentioned Tulane, North Carolina, UCLA. But I also wanted to know this bigger question around name, image, and likeness and the money that's being paid. Do we think this is going to change how collectives have drawn up contracts? Do we think that we're going to get a little bit more sunlight on how these things get done? Because at the time, Nico's deal is landmark, right? And it's still a
Right.
very good deal, which is perplexing. Do you really want to risk this sort of a saga going on at your university, or are you prepared to have this sort of fight and public sentiment be on your side if you're another major university that might be in this kind of predicament?
Yeah, I don't know if contracts will exactly change. I know a lot of colleges across the country have been trying to figure out ways to set up contracts so guys can't transfer. Um, I know that Nico had a multi-year deal, which is not it's not a rarity in college football, but it also is not as common as a lot of these other deals that are either like a 12-month deal or roll over month or something like that.
I watched how Darren Mensah kind of reset the quarterback market with his deal
Yeah,
transferring from Tulane to Duke. And we've seen how some players are reported to be making between $3 and $4 million. I'm thinking about Miami, Carson Beck, John Mateer, Oklahoma, so forth, so on. Do you think the number is going to finally come down or stay the same? Or are we going to continue to see quarterbacks in particular get paid into the range of head coaches at Power Four levels?
yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to reach that region. Um, I think when this House versus NCAA settlement finally goes through, if it goes through, it's probably going to bring the quarterback market down a little bit. Um, but RJ, I can think of a quarterback right now who might stand to make over $5 million this season.
Oh, wow. Uh,
So,
okay.
so,
Um,
I don't know if the quarterback market's going to go down. I'm not signing the
yeah.
contracts for collectives, but I think a lot of things could happen right now.
Well, and that's kind of it's really difficult to pin this down. This is why the job you do, I think, is so interesting because it is still considered the Wild West to many, but you seem to have a very good understanding of what the market may do and who to talk to about it. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk with you. The
Yeah,
other reason I want to talk with you is what do you think the future is for this market? I mean, fans have already said that they hate this. They really, really don't like it. It is what we're
yeah.
going to be for the future. But do you think that there's a likelihood that we might see more guys try to do what Arch Manning has done, which is basically say nothing at all publicly about name, image, and likeness or what he might get paid and just go play
Sure.
football?
Yeah, I think I think what Arch Manning has done is fascinating, right? With making a decision that just kind of, I don't know, maybe you can call it the shut up and play ball attitude to an extent, where he's kept it as low of a profile as a Manning can at Texas and just
Mm.
kind of back up Quinn Ewers. And now he's going to have this shot to start. But, the one thing that I keep thinking about too is, right, I mean, On3, we have this recruiting service and everything. We talk about 5 stars and right, a portion of those 5 stars are odds are they're going to end up in the NFL, and that's where all the big money is in the NFL. Well, you and I also know that only a certain percentage of college football players make the NFL. So I think we're splintering off into these two groups all of a sudden where that player shouldn't hold out, negotiate more money because they have a chance to make a lot more money in the pros. But now more than ever, there's probably a larger portion of athletes who can make a case that they stand to make more money in college football. And holding out to get an extra $500,000 could be worth it for I don't know, an offensive lineman who doesn't have all the physical characteristics to start in the league, but can be a program changer at a blue blood program or something like that. We've seen that all the time, for example. So I'm just so fascinated to see what the market does, and I wish I had this like perfect forecast of it. And I know there's a lot of college administrators across the country who want this house settlement to be the fix all. But the minute you start talking about the settlement solving everything, you then go into this other conversation of is this NIL clearinghouse they're trying to create going to work? I will say no because for since longer than I've ever been alive, boosters have tried to funnel dollars to recruits, and it didn't start 4 years ago. And then even if the settlement goes through, well, there's still really no teeth to it because there's no congressional backing. And the only thing that we've learned in the last 20 years is the NCAA enforcement is almost non-existent.
Mm.
So what's that mean for college football? And is it now more than ever where a new entity needs to emerge and kind of take control rather than trying to piece it together bit by bit, league by league?
We're running up on time because I really would like to build a bigger conversation around this, but I want to end it here if we can. I'm going to leave you with a big thought.
Okay.
Perhaps you can retort. College football is steadily going up in financial value. Is there
Yeah.
such a thing as college football being too big to fail? I don't think so. But this part about the NCAA is really starting to get on my nerves because I think you agree with me on this. The NCAA is a maid service. It is what the member institutions want it to be, enforcing laws that they all want to be on the books, except when
Yeah.
they apply to them. Do you think, knowing that we don't think this clearinghouse may work, knowing that
Yeah.
boosters are always going to have this money going there, that we're going to get to a spot where we have some sort of enforcement that can crack down on tampering, that can make sure these deals are above board, or is just going to continue as it is?
A lot of people want it to be.
Mm.
A lot of people think this next phase of college sports could be that. Until I see it, I'm not going to say it's going to be that. Um, but yeah, I think, the one other thing I'll leave you on too is college football for so many years was this amateur game that people loved. And then what, in the last 50 years, it's become much more, it's grown and become almost like more on par with like the NFL than anything else I think we have in American sports. But at what point does it get to a point where athletes are going to be considered some type of an employee just because of how much money some of these schools generate because of college football? Or what happens when the next college football playoff contract is renegotiated? Like the dollars are only going upwards, which leads me to believe that more money, more than ever, is going to go to athletes.
I think so. I think so. But for how long, and how long are they going to stay at one place? And do we run into a college basketball problem? Again, we could keep talking about this forever, but you've already given me more time than I asked for. Pete Nakos, college business reporter at On3, does a fantastic job. Give him a follow on Twitter. Read his work. And if he reports it, let's start by going, probably telling us the facts and the truth. Thanks so much for joining us, Pete.
Thanks, Sergeant.